And that's right, everybody. Welcome back once again to another edition of the Best Seat in the House podcast. As always, I'm your host, Rob Kramer, joined by my co-host, the great Daniel Bobo Carlin. And Dan, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing fine, and bro, you know who else is upset about this whole Mets on a 4-game losing streak? My mom!
You know who I feel sorry for? My mom! Oh!
You know who I want to wish a happy birthday to this weekend? My mom!
Oh, there you go. Happy birthday, Aurora. No doubt about it. Happy birthday to the great Bobo's mom right there. That's very cool. And hopefully the Mets can get off this schneid and get her a couple of victories.
Yep, exactly. You better win on my mom's birthday. That's all I can tell you. It's this weekend. Better take 2 out of 3 from Milwaukee this weekend. That's all I can tell you. And gain some ground on those fucking Phillies, who I can't stand. That's with every other team from that city I can't stand.
Yeah, it had been for about 50 consecutive days that the Mets and the Phillies were each within 2 games of each other, whether it be Mets 2 games up or Phillies 2 games up. They were within 2 games of each other in the standings for that entire 50-day period. Well, that's come to an end now. The Mets are now 2.5 games out after they were swept by the Guardians. And I don't care what anybody says. We looked at that Guardians team over the last 3 days. The Guardians, the Cleveland Indians, their real name, they suck. No matter what you want to call them, look at their team. They stink. The fact that the Mets got swept by them is an utter embarrassment, and everyone in this organization should be disgusted with themselves. This is not the same Cleveland team that we saw against the Yankees in the ALCS last year. They don't have 2 of their best relief pitchers are basically suspended from baseball because they were betting on it. They traded a couple of big bats or a couple of big pieces prior to the trade deadline, including their best pitcher, Shane Bieber. This team is not a good team. They're 3 games over 500, and the only reason that they're in a playoff or even close to a playoff spot right now is because the American League sucks. So for the Mets to go out and do this the last couple of games have just been a disaster, Dan. And yesterday, a game you were at, the Mets didn't give you anything to cheer about, although we'll talk about some ridiculous cheers that happened late in this game. The Mets were nearly no-hit by a good pitcher. I got to give the guy credit. I like him. Gavin Williams, very good pitcher. But I'm sorry, especially when you're facing a sweep at home, the way the Mets have lifelessly lost the first 2 games of this series, you'd think that they would have showed up today, or I'm sorry, yesterday, to get the win. That's not the case. They come within 2 outs of a no-hitter and get swept by the Guardians yesterday. Dan, you were there. What were your thoughts while you were watching it live, and how do you feel coming out of it?
Oh, that was the most disgusting 3 games I had ever seen. I just could not believe what I fucking saw. I mean, it just felt like there was pitching that failed in too many big spots. There was just too many errors made. I mean, that first game of that series, very winnable. Fucking good spot. Mendoza should have sent that base runner home.
Well, and not only that, too, the Mets were behind 5-0, and you can get on Sean Manaea for putting them in a 5-0 hole. Look, the guy threw 5 brilliant innings and ran out of gas in the 6th. To be honest, Manaea probably should have pulled him before that, which, I don't blame Manaea for letting him go out there and pitch a little bit more, build up that arm strength, because he that's what we do need out of Sean Manaea now. But he puts them in a 5-0 hole. The Mets dig their way out of it, and then they have bases loaded. It's bottom of the 8th inning, tie game 5-5, bases loaded with Pete Alonso and Juan Soto coming up, and Soto doesn't get the job done, and Alonso strikes out. And next thing you know, it's extra innings, and the Mets lose that game, not shockingly. Yeah.
And then as much as I like Alonso, I feel like maybe he was trying too hard to try to hit one to the outfield, and usually when that happens, it goes doesn't really go well.
Yeah,
the first thing is to try to make contact, and he was intentionally trying, and that that's what he should have done. Not really try to get it to the outfield, because when you're trying to intentionally do that, it always usually goes in the strikeout. I think,
yeah,
and I heard about how that can happen when I heard about Did you ever read Lenny Dykstra's book House of Nails?
yeah.
Yeah. Remember when he talks about that at batting Game 3 of the World Series? How he says that usually goes south if you're trying to hit one to the outfield, hit one, try to hit a home run. It's
Yeah,
gonna
no.
go it goes south.
That's why you hear when guys hit big time home runs and stuff or get big hits, they never say, "Oh yeah, I was swinging for a home run." Every once in a while you'll hear somebody say that. I think Robin Ventura, I believe I remember hearing him say that it was the only time he ever tried to hit a home run in his career when it was the grand slam single against Atlanta in the NLCS in '99. So you see that it's very rare that guys actually go out of their way to try to hit a home run in a big spot. But I guess Pete was just trying too hard, couldn't get the job done. And that's been the case with a lot of the Mets lately, Dan. And as a matter of fact, when you look at this too, the the team overall has now lost 8 of 9. We all got real happy when the Mets had this 7-game winning streak about a week and a half ago. Everybody was feeling pretty damn good about this team. And, that's one thing that I cautioned, because this happened right before the trade deadline. And I said to everybody, I said it on this show, I said it on the radio show, I said it on everything. I said, don't get fooled by a week of the team performing well. We've seen how they've done for the entire rest of the season, and let's not get fooled by a week of things going well for this team. And then all of a sudden, everybody got fooled by it, especially, in my opinion, David Stearns, who, say what you want about Brett Beatty and Mark Vientos and Ronnie Mauricio and the combination of them. I still like them. I still, for the future, at least, I have confidence in them. But I feel like David Stearns should have been able to admit that, look, these guys are not consistent enough. We have a World Series possible team right here, especially with the bullpen that he built that we can't even use now because the team can't freaking score. The Mets should have gone out there and gotten Eugenio Suarez from Arizona, like me and you were talking about, for the 2 months before the trade deadline. And instead, he went out there, and the only bat he added was Cedric Mullins. And while I like Cedric Mullins, and he's a nice piece, Cedric Mullins is not the type of guy that you're going to plug into a lineup and he's going to spark the team like Yoenis Cespedes did a decade ago. That's not the type of player he is. He's a role player. He's a guy that's hitting 229 when he came here. It's even lower now because he's been 1 for 14 since he came over. But, this is a guy that the Mets now, you're putting a lot of pressure on this guy to be the difference maker when that's not what he ever was supposed to be,
Yeah, it's just I'm questioning the jury on this. The outcome of the season is going to be whether he failed or not to go on the trade deadline. David Stearns needed to go all in, and I'm questioning if he really went all in on this trade deadline. Yeah. I have little faith. I maybe give a B- to the GM, Big Nose David Stearns.
Well, let's be fair. Last week at the deadline, you gave him a B+, and I gave him an A. That I was really, trying to be optimistic about what we saw this team do. And I was convinced that, by David Stearns and them trying to shorten the game by adding to the bullpen, I was convinced that, what, even though the Mets don't have great hitting, and as much as I think they should have added a bat, I'm going to commend David Stearns for what he did to the bullpen. Because let's not, beat around the bush, Dan. The Mets have, and we've seen it, even though it's backfired a couple of times on the Mets, not necessarily to anything the bullpen has done. But, when you see, look, Ryan Helsley and, what's the guy's name they got from the Giants, Rogers, these guys are great pieces in this bullpen. These guys make the Mets bullpen much better. And okay, a couple of times Helsley took the loss the other night in the 10th inning when He didn't even give up a hard hit ball because the fake Manfred runner was on second base to screw the game over. And then you had the game the other day where, Tyler Rogers, look at what Tyler Rogers did. Tyler Rogers had 2 outs and nobody on. And then he gives up a cheap hit here, a cheap hit there, and a cheap hit there, and another run comes home. Like, it was not Tyler, like, these were little garbage bloop hits that there's nothing you could do about. So I'm not going to sit here and knock what they did at the deadline because I still like Helsley and Rogers in that bullpen. What I don't like is that these guys that we're counting on aren't hitting, Dan. When we look at this right now, look at this, Dan. From Tuesday's game until Wednesday's game, the Mets went 14 straight innings, not scoring a run, because that would be enough. The Mets went 14 straight innings without having a hit. Without having a hit. That's 42 straight guys that did not get a hit. That is mind-numbingly insane.
Yeah, it is.
How did it get bad?
I don't know how to have it, but all I can say is that was unacceptable.
Yeah. Yes, it was and is unacceptable. I still don't understand how the Mets haven't been forced to do something. That's why, and let's talk about the no hitter, because that's what this led up to. And
that I gotta say, because I was there, I was annoyed by the people who booed when the Juan Soto hit that home run. That is completely stupid. I was entirely rooting for the Mets the whole time that game. I was cheering. I was applauding when Soto hit that home run, and I was like, "Oh, good. We're about to pull. I felt like, oh, we might pull a come from behind win, and win this and avoid me really being disappointed on the way home. Even though that wasn't the case, the game ended with me being very disappointed on the way home.
Yeah, but either way, Dan, the thing is, just like you said, the Met fans there, who the hell is going to boo a Met home run? Me personally, I was actually rooting at that point. I was so mad at the Mets. I was so angry at the Mets. I was actually rooting for the Mets to get no hit. But I was not. I was only rooting for it because I thought that it would force the Mets out of sheer embarrassment to fire their hitting coach or fire somebody or rattle the fucking cages and get these guys woken up a little bit. That's the only reason I was rooting for it. When Juan Soto hit the home run, I was still happy because it was the Mets actually doing something good. So I'm not going to sit here and boo Juan Soto. What also pissed me off, Dan, not only was the fans booing Juan Soto hit a home run, but the idiotic fans that cheered and gave Gavin Williams a standing ovation coming off the Citi Field mound as he no-hit the Mets over 8 1/3 innings on a game that they needed desperately. For you to sit here and cheer that fucking guy walking off the mound, you are a disgrace to Met fans if you cheered that guy. I cannot believe there were people out there that still cheered the guy. What are we, fucking St. Louis? What is this, Bush League fucking garbage? I could not. I'm telling you, Dan, I was so angry I couldn't see straight when this fucking guy was getting cheered walking off after what he did to the Mets over 8 1/3 innings yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking the same thing. Seeing that, like, I can't believe they did that. They were doing that. And then I got worse news on the way home. I'm looking at Twitter. I heard Gary Cohen's going to be off this weekend. That's going to be a shame that Pete Alonso could be breaking the Mets all-time home run record this weekend. He's 2 away from it. And we're going to be stuck with Steve Gelb's calling the game. I was thinking the schedule,
True.
Oh, good, at least it's going to happen with Gary Cohen in the booth. No, we're stuck with Steve Gelb's. And if you want to put the radio feed thing, you're going to get to hear how he did get to call it. How he doesn't do road games unless they're short-distance road games.
It's true. So, yeah, we're not going to have Howie. We're not going to have Gary Cohen. But you know what, Dan? We might not even have to worry about that because the way the Mets are hitting, they might not score any runs in Milwaukee, especially with as good as Milwaukee's doing, who, you could make the argument Milwaukee's the best team in baseball right now. And I know weird things happen in baseball. The Mets are at the lowest of lows. The Brewers are at the highest of highs. who knows? The Mets could go out and sweep them or take 2 out of 3, and we'll be feeling much better about ourselves on Sunday afternoon when we're doing our Patreon show, recapping it. However, I'm not sitting here, and I'm not going to expect that, because this shit offense has not given me any reason to expect anything like that, because you look at this. All year, this is not over the last 30, 40 games like we've been talking about. The full year, this team is hitting 231 with runners in scoring position. That's good for 29th in Major League Baseball. Garbage for the talent on this offensive team. They should be ashamed of themselves with that. And, that's my only question. How have they not fired their hitting coaches? You've got 2 guys, Eric Chavez and Jeremy Bates. And I got to say, actually, I've met both of them in real life. It does not please me to sit here and call for their jobs. And it's not like it's a personal thing. The way I'm looking at it is there has to be consequences. These guys aren't doing their jobs. What would happen if you didn't go into work all week and or if you went into work all week and you just chose to sit on your ass and not do anything? What are they going to do? They're going to say, oh, there's Dan again collecting his paycheck. He's not doing a damn thing, but we're paying him for it. That's what the Mets are doing right now. And even Carlos Mendoza in yesterday's game, in his press game, I can't even speak right now. I'm so angry. Carlos Mendoza in his post-game press conference said that there might be something wrong with the what's the way that he phrased it? With the work the Mets are putting in, or I forget the exact way he put it, but he put it in the way that maybe the formula we've been using is not working, and maybe we have to change that. Well, let's see. Who is the person that comes up with the formula for how you're going to be hitting? Hey, it's the hitting coach.
Yeah, they need to be fired. That's almost as bad as me showing up to UPS, not loading the trucks, getting and getting fired. Actually, it'd be much worse than that. A bunch of people wouldn't be receiving their packages. That's for sure.
Yeah, so it should be terrible, man. I just don't get it. I don't understand. There's no accountability right now at the New York Mets. They sit here and they say the same thing over and over again. I was listening to, once again, the great Rico Bronya podcast, and I was laughing as Evan Roberts was reading emails from Met fans, and one of them was a fan that just said, can Carlos Mendoza, stop thanking the opposing pitcher for his great, outing every time? Oh, well, I got to hand it to, Yu Darvish. By the way, Yu Darvish's only good start of the year still is against the Mets. His next start after the 7 shutout innings he threw against the Mets was 4 innings and 4 runs. And his start before that against the Mets was 5 innings and 4 runs. Yu Darvish, this season at least so far, stinks. The fact that the Mets got basically dominated and nearly no hit again against that guy that day was a disgrace. And the fact that it's continuing to go on and no one is being held accountable is mind-blowing to me. Steve Cohen has to go in there and show these guys he's got some fucking balls, because all they do is baby these players left and right. Oh, it's a family atmosphere, this and that. Alex Cohen's making dinner in the clubhouse. Who gives a shit? That's what I care about.
Yeah, exactly. For once, do something. And they freaking need to fire the hitting coach.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the other thing that's ridiculous, too, is that the Mets in this time, let's look at this. Now, let's break a couple of things down real quick, all right? Last 46 games, the New York Mets are 10 games under 500, 18-28. That's not a 5-game losing streak. That's not a 7-game losing streak. That's not losing 7 out of 10. No, that is a third of the season you being a 10-game under 500 bullshit team. That's what that is. And the other thing is that during that time frame, and actually we could go back even another 3 games prior to that, during that, in the last 49 games, you know this, Dan? This is a stat they gave the other day. The Mets are the first team in Major League Baseball history that in the span of a 49 game during their regular season, that only one starting pitcher was able to complete 6 innings or more. Never in the history of Major League Baseball has that ever happened. And during that time, 49 games, there have been 49 sixth innings the Mets have played. 49 of them. Starting pitchers have only completed 10 and 2/3 of those 49 innings. The rest is by, and actually I miscalculated. It's not 39.1. It's 38.1 is the last, how many bullpen innings they've had to account for that. Isn't it? I mean, that just shows you everything you need to know.
That is ridiculous. Also, the Mets need to call up at least one of their pitching prospects. David Stearns is completely stupid in not doing this, going all in, putting the best product on the field. And if that's the case, then maybe they need to call up one of these pitchers. Maybe call up Brendan Sprout. I expect them to call up Brendan Sprout at some point. They need to.
Yeah. Or even, they've had Brandon Sprout they could call up. They've had Nolan McLean at AAA they could call up. And even the wild card is Jonah Tong at AA is having one of the best minor league seasons that you can remember at AA. So it's just ridiculous. And to even further your point, Dan, we all know Frankie Montas stinks. And we all know Frankie Montas is most likely not long for this team. It depends how quickly David Stearns comes to that realization, or it depends if, maybe we get actually, believe it or not, a couple of decent starts out of Montas. That'd be shocking. But the other thing, Dan, is that not only does Montas stink, Clay Holmes, this blows my mind. Clay Holmes pitched 5 innings, allowed 1 run, and threw 75 pitches. When he completed the 5th inning, he had a 1-2-3 inning, meaning that he had retired the last 4 batters he faced.
Oh, yeah.
So he comes in. One second, Dan. So he throws 75 pitches, and they pull him out because Carlos Mendoza was worried about him facing the top of the lineup again. What kind of starting pitcher do you have here? And in other words, he's not a starting pitcher, that he can't face a lineup 3 times. And you're that worried about him that you're going to take him out after 75 pitches. If he's only a 75 inning pitcher or a 75 pitch pitcher, stick his ass back in the bullpen. We don't need to see him in the rotation. And just like Dan said, let's bring up one of these kids. I'm sick of it.
Yeah, exactly. I thought the same thing, and I thought they should have had him start the 6th inning. I was scratching my head too in the stands that night.
Yeah, and you're 100% right, because you know what? Look, me and you have both said all year, the guy's a 5-inning pitcher. The guy's a 5-inning pitcher. The guy's a 5-inning pitcher. I think it's blatantly obvious at this point that we all know that. The thing is, at least give the guy a shot. If he goes out there and walks the first 2 guys or allows a leadoff, base hit or whatever, and, he's into the 80s pitch, okay, whatever. I'm not going to like it, but still, I'll get it, But if you are sitting here and you're not even giving this guy an opportunity to start the 6th inning at 75 pitches, something's wrong. Something is really, really wrong. And if the Mets are okay, I don't understand how you could be okay with that either. How? How could you be okay with your starting pitcher who, you know what? I know 5 innings is the bare minimum, but, as crazy as it sounds, every once in a while, it's kind of nice to get 6 or 7 innings out of your starting pitcher. And believe it or not, throughout the course of a season, you kind of need that unless you're going to kill your fucking bullpen. So I just can't, I don't understand what they were thinking.
Yeah, I feel like the Mets need to get a couple more innings out of their they need to get at least 6 inning starts from our starting rotation the rest of the way.
Yeah, they definitely need it. This rotation has to be stepping up, because guess what? We haven't seen it at all from this lineup all year. This lineup has been a probably below average. I don't want to say terrible, because they've still put up decent numbers every once in a while, but it's a below average offense, no doubt about it. And these numbers just bring it home. I mean, we saw the 231 all year with runners in scoring position, but this is even worse over the last recent games. So for Francisco Lindor, over his last 30 games, 224, 5 home runs, 21 RBIs. That's a month of him being a 220 hitter. And it goes back even more than that because, as me and you were talking about on the show the other day, since Francisco Lindor got hurt in LA 52 or 3 games ago, he's hitting 195. So this is a thing that goes back way, till June. And even more. Let's keep going. Soto in his last 15 games. We all know it's longer than that too, but in his last 15, 185, 2 home runs, and 7 RBIs. Come on. I don't think he had a stretch of 15 games like that with the Yankees all year last year. For instance, Pete Alonso. Sure, the last couple of games, Alonso's woke up a little bit. He's hit those 3 runs home runs. He had the 4-hit game the other day, the 4 RBI game as well. But even with that, in the last 30 games, Pete Alonso, I just included all those hits he just had. Even with that, in the last 30 games, Pete Alonso is only hitting 185 with 7 home runs and 26 RBIs, which isn't too bad over that. But still, 185? Give me a freaking break. Brandon Nimmo, the last 15 games, 207, 1 home run, 9 RBIs. That's ridiculous. And Jeff McNeil, a guy that the Mets need to make contact to do anything, this guy is hitting 229 with no home runs and an RBI in his last 15. It goes even worse than that because I can't even fit them on the list, but Mark Vientos has not had a good last month. Brett Beatty has not had a good last month. Ronnie Mauricio has not had a good last month. Francisco Alvarez. Boy, remember when everybody was so happy Francisco Alvarez is back? Oh, my God. This guy's the new Johnny Bench. He hasn't done shit either. I'm sick of these guys.
What the heck is going on? And I can tell you, the Mets better take 2 out of 3. They have to in order to keep the momentum in their favor in their season. I'm sorry. They got to.
It starts tomorrow.
And without a doubt, the Mets need to maybe also be good at trying to play some small ball and keep us in, and also and our pitching better keep us in the game.
That's the thing, Dan, too. And I'm glad you brought that up because I understand. I'm a guy that I love old school National League baseball. I love small ball. But guess what? There's a certain time and a place for it. And yesterday, when the Mets were already up 1-0 and had a runner on second, Jeff McNeil turned around and batted with and bunted with 1 out in the second or third inning, whenever it was yesterday. And the Mets, so they ended up bringing that run in too. So, Tyrone Taylor almost had everybody pass out when he got an RBI single. I couldn't believe it. I thought I was hallucinating when I saw it. But Tyrone Taylor actually got an RBI single to drive a run in. But it still, even when the Mets had the 2-0 lead, it just made me think to myself, it's the third inning. The Mets are already up 1-0. Why is Jeff McNeil bunting with a runner in scoring position?
That one really didn't make sense. I mean, the Mets this time, the next 3 games, strike hard, strike fast, no mercy.
Yeah, but Dan, the reason why I brought that up though is because it comes off to me like it's even more in the Mets' head than we think. Like they're already thinking to themselves, like to me, when I saw McNeil do that, it was almost like he was saying, well, we're not going to do shit for the rest of the game anyway, so I might as well just try to sacrifice myself, and maybe we'll accidentally score a run. You know what I mean? That's kind of what it came off to me like. Like these guys are already walking up to the plate knowing they're defeated before the pitch is even thrown,
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I feel like they need to go in a mentality. I feel like they need to go more in a high hope mentality. Just, I don't know, feel a boost of energy. Also, I'm wondering, is that character from What We Do in the Shadows in the Stands, Colin Robinson? Is he in the stands? There better not be an energy vampire in the ballpark.
Well, there's definitely an energy vampire taking over Citi Field. You're right about that.
Yeah. For all I know, there may have them. For all I know, the energy vampire console must have a suite at Citi Field. For all I know.
Well, let's hope they don't have a suite at Miller Park. Do they still call it Miller Park, or is it something else now?
It's called American Family Field. An insurance company bought the naming rights, but according to the locals that I know in Milwaukee, they still call it Miller Park, which is
fair enough.
which is a name it went by when I went there a couple of years back. I'm sure
Yeah.
you've seen that. I'm sure you've seen that photo. I got seen on TV. My mother heard me yell, "Let's go Mets" in the background, and Curtis
Yes.
Granderson gave a nod to me when he hit a home run to tie the game. If you remember those, I showed you those photos, I think.
Yes, I remember. But the thing is, now tomorrow in Milwaukee, in that same stadium that Curtis Granderson gave you that nod, it's not going to be easy for the Mets tomorrow, my friend, as they're going to be taking on the Milwaukee Brewers, who are one of the hottest teams and probably the hottest team in baseball right now, going against the returning Brandon Woodruff, who is only a few starts since his return. One of the better pitchers in baseball these days. He's been great since he came back, too, picking up right where he left off, 3-0 with a 2.22 ERA. And Kodai Senga, well, he's not been the same. He had an injury about 2 months ago at this point now. And since his return a little bit less than a month ago, it has been quite the disaster as his ERA has climbed nearly a full run, and he has not looked like the same Kodai. So let's hope that they can start to fix that tomorrow night.
Yeah, I feel like Kodai needs to get a good win under his belt to build himself back up. Because I feel like this whole time, like Senga's just pitching like a guy who hasn't been on the field enough. And he lost that momentum when he got injured, I feel like, earlier this year. And I feel like once he gains that momentum, it's going to be pretty good down the stretch, I feel like.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. No doubt about it. I'm with you on that. And
the Mets need to keep this game close.
to say the least. Because even yesterday, as soon as, honestly, as soon as David – and I know this sounds ridiculous. As soon as David Peterson allowed that solo home run, I knew the game was over. I knew the game was over as soon as he allowed the solo home run. And after the fourth inning, I remember this vividly. I was watching the game at my job on my phone. And after the fourth inning ended, I saw Brandon Nimmo walking off the field. And my only thought was, they're getting no hit today. Because you see it pop up across the bottom. 0-0-0 for the Mets in the bottom. My first instinct was, well, they're getting no hit today. I don't think they're going to get a hit. And they were 2 outs away from that. Disgrace. They should all be embarrassed.
Yeah, and I'm just hoping that loss just wakes them up.
There has been about 15 of those losses this year that I said the same thing about. And so far it hasn't woken them up, which is why I've been an advocate recently for them firing their hitting coach. And that hasn't happened yet either. So I guess we'll see. We'll talk about the Yankees now, Dan, as we wind down with the Mets, as the Yankees are also coming off a real tough stretch, man. It is crazy to think that on June 12th, the Mets were 45-24, and the Yankees were 42-25. They had two of the best records in Major League Baseball. Since then, the Mets are what we said before, 18-28. The Yankees are 19-28. It has not been much better for the New York Yankees than what the Mets have been doing, and they avoided even more embarrassment last night as they avoided getting swept by the Texas Rangers last night in Texas with what would have been a 6th consecutive loss. And boy, as much as the Mets need this win tomorrow night to kind of rejuvenate themselves, I don't think any team in baseball needed a win last night more than the Yankees.
Yeah, the Yankees look like they've had the life sucked out of them. Like all of a sudden, like they can't do anything right. And it's just they're not hitting.
Well, they're not doing anything really. They do hit every once in a while, but their pitching has just been a disaster. Last week they got swept by the Marlins. They blew a game in which they led 9-4. They ended up losing that game 13-12 inexplicably. They had Jock Peterson earlier this week tie a game. Jock Peterson, by the way, who came into that at bat hitting 126 in the 9th inning. He tied the game at 7-7. The Yankees are going to lose that game in extra innings. The Yankees have just had devastating moment after devastating moment over the last week or two. and they desperately needed that win yesterday. One of the big reasons for the Yankees' struggles is Devin Williams too, who has come in at the end of games and just kind of poured gasoline on things at times. This guy, who the Yankees really, really wanted to be their, not new Mariano, because nobody could really replace Mariano, but at least their new reliable guy in the ninth inning, has been anything but that this year. He's absolutely imploded. His ERA is back up over 5. It's 5.44, which is actually the fourth worst relief pitcher in Major League Baseball. And what I keep hearing Yankee fans say is that Pete Alonso broke him, that Devin Williams is just not the same guy, and Pete Alonso broke him last year.
Yeah, well, I kind of have no problem laughing at that to Yankee fans. I have no problem, but overall, it's like the Yankees. I've been telling you, Yankee fans. Yeah, now you know what us Met fans go through with this kind of thing. You guys are actually human. You guys got spoiled during that '90s dominance, and you're seeing a baseball team that's more human like the rest of us.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Our buddy PhD hanging out with us today. Thanks for hanging out, buddy. Hope everybody's enjoying the show tonight. And but yeah, Dan, you're absolutely right about that. But one thing the Yankees did do right was improve their bullpen at the trade deadline. And David Bednar, the guy they picked up from the Pittsburgh Pirates, he was the closer. He actually had a really great outing last night. He had it looks like he's about to solidify grabbing this closer's role right out of Devin Williams' hand, as he recorded a 5-out save last night and struck out all 5 batters he faced. He's the first Yankee pitcher to do that since Goose Gossage did on May 14th, 1982 against Oakland. So it's been a long time, even with Mariano, that the Yankees had that kind of strikeout dominance out of the bullpen, and Bednar might just be exactly what the Yankees need.
Well, that's a big thing that happened. He's showing he can handle being in a big spot on a team that can be a contender. Being the fact that we know this is a guy that was playing on Pittsburgh, a team that's practically tanking every year, and he so far seems to have adjusted well to being on the Yankees, which is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, especially being the closer of the Yankees. I mean, not only do you, when you become the closer of the Yankees, you almost have to live up to what Mariano Rivera established, and that's nearly impossible to do. So, really great job by Bednar turning things around for the Yanks there. You were going to say?
Yeah, and then the other thing he's got to be getting used to, we're going to have to see more how he fares at home, being the fact that that's going to be a new thing, a new territory for David Bednar.
That's true. That's true. He's definitely going to be in a new setting out there. You're right. It has not been at home yet, as the Yankees have been in Miami.
Yeah, but it's a completely different atmosphere than it was at Pittsburgh. The fans are actually the demand winner. He's actually going to be pitching in larger crowds.
Yeah.
Even though half those crowds I know might maybe just bandwagoners and tourists, still it's going to be a lot larger crowds, a different environment than he's ever pitched in. When he pitched at Yankee Stadium Mountain in those key spots.
Yeah, man. And David Bednar, I think he's going to live up to it, though. I think Bednar's got that kind of mindset, works pretty well in tight spots. So I think the Yankees did the right thing, locking him up when they acquired him from Pittsburgh about a week and a half ago, whatever that was. So, definitely big for the Yankees there. Also big news for the Yankees that Aaron Judge has rejoined the team from the IL. So that's definitely something they needed. But in the midst of Judge going out there, Dan, the Yankees had one of the worst stretches that they've had really in our entire lives. The Yankees, believe it or not, at one point prior to them snapping the losing streak last night, had lost 18 of 23 games. 18 of 23, Dan. And, no Yankee has had any kind of stretch like that. No Yankee team has lost 18 of 23 games since 1991, back in the days when Stump Merrill half the Yankee fans alive probably don't even know who he was, because half the Yankee fans probably aren't even old enough to remember that far back. But that's back when Stump Merrill was the manager of the Yankees, and the Yankees were pulling in about maybe 11,000 people a night at Yankee Stadium when they were terrible back there in the early 90s, during the days when George Steinbrenner was banned. And it had been that long since the Yankees had a bad streak like this.
Yeah, it's been that long since the time you had George Steinbrenner was naming a number of managers he had fired during that whole conversation he had with Costanza back in the day.
Oh, this was that that Costanza conversation, but you are correct. It was definitely post Billy Martin that we heard his name a couple of times during that. But yeah, man, I mean, it had been a long time since we saw that, since we saw the Yankees go through anything like that. And, this was actually this season. The Yankees have already had 3 different streaks of 5 or more losses. The first time they've done that since 2015. That was under Joe Girardi. But Dan, my question to you as we start to wrap up here on the Yankees is, should Aaron Boone be worried about his job? Because there are a lot of people that I know there's a lot of frustration with the Yankees fans, and especially our buddy Davey Mack over the general manager, Brian Cashman. But Aaron Boone, I don't think he should be too comfortable either, because the Yankees are only a couple of games up on the wild card spot right now, and they're actually behind Boston in the standings for the first time all year now too. And if I'm Aaron Boone, I think the Yankees have to make the playoffs, because if they drop out of a playoff spot, Aaron Boone might be out of a job.
Yeah, I really feel like if the Yankees don't make the playoffs, I feel not only is Aaron Boone going to be fired, I think this could be the straw that finally gets Brian Cashman fired.
Do you think it could get Cashman fired too? Because I know, Eastside Dave has been talking about that for a couple of years now. To be honest, if it was me, I probably would have fired Brian Cashman 5 or 6 years ago. It probably would have been after 2018 when the Yankees got knocked out in the first round by the Red Sox. But I mean, what do you think, Dan? Would you keep Cashman around, or would you have fired him already?
He would have been fired by now. I would have done the same thing probably George Steinbrenner would have done if he were alive. I think he would have been fired after 2018.
If it was George Steinbrenner, though, I think me and you would have been a little bit nicer. I think if it was George, he probably would have been gone after like 2010 or 11.
Yeah, exactly. I think there'd be a lot of things played different, all right? I feel like George Steinbrenner is rolling in his grave with how bad the Yankees have been the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, and it's crazy to think that, too. It's crazy that we're talking about that when the Yankees were literally just in the World Series last year. But, it's almost like that was an anomaly, because the American League because the Yankees, I feel like, are not as good of a team as they've been the last couple of years, but there hasn't been that big American League team, or I'm sorry, last year at least, there wasn't that big American League team they had to get through. There was no Houston Astros last year to stand in their way between the Yankees and the World Series. There was no big, bad team, Red Sox team they're going to have to go through, or anything else like that the Yankees would have had a team to really push them to their limit last year. The Cleveland Guardians were a pretty good team last year, not so much now, but they were a pretty good team last year, and even they couldn't take the Yankees to the limit. The Yankees beat them in 5 games with Soto. So, it's this is something too where I think last year people say, okay, they gave him credit for getting to the World Series, as the Yankees and Aaron Boone deserve that credit. But it almost kind of raised the bar a little bit on Boone this year, where it's like, hey, buddy, you were in the World Series last year. If you don't make the playoffs, we're finding a new manager. That's how I would look at it.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I'm looking at it. If they don't make the playoffs, he's fired, as Benson Dunwoody would say.
I wasn't sure if you were going for Trump on that one. You fired.
I was trying to imitate Benson.
All All right. There we go. So yeah, I agree with you though. Boone and um, Boone and Cashman should both be feeling the heat right now. So it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out with both those teams. Yeah, me and you putting the heat up on today's show, Dan. This should be the most fiery show of the year. As me and you usually don't call for guys' jobs, and on today's show, we basically called for both Mets hitting coaches to get fired, the Yankees GM and the Yankees manager to get fired. So, something's pissing me and you off, and I have a feeling that our New York baseball team sucking has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, exactly. It's put me in a terrible mood. I'm lucky this is a day that I can calm down, and my TV is gonna get a little bit of relief, and not having to worry about me nearly breaking it. Hopefully tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow that doesn't happen either. That the TV doesn't get nearly hit by anything. Hopefully the Mets don't give me a reason to nearly destroy the TV. But we'll see.
It's gonna be tough tomorrow.
Let's keep our fingers crossed. I'm making sure to rub the belly of our executive producer, the living room grimace. Maybe needs to make an appearance. Maybe the actual guy who the living room grimace was inspired by needs to make an appearance to bring some of that grimace encouragement to the team for once.
You got that right, man. We need grimace back at Citi Field.
Yep, I think he even agrees too.
Yeah, you don't hear anybody talking about that fucking Pablo Sanchez shit anymore. After they had I don't even. I was never a guy that played that backyard baseball stuff. Even when I was a kid, I always hated things that had fake players in it, and I was never a fan of backyard baseball. I don't even really know who Pablo Sanchez is. I've been told that he used to be the best player in the game in that game, and they had him at Citi Field the day that 7-game winning streak start, but that he didn't have the sticking power that the Grimace did last year.
Yeah, I just feel like that character while I did play the game, it was a PC game, so I really feel like it while it may have hasn't been, it didn't have a big console release. Like I didn't find it on a PS2 or anything like that. I just feel like the Grimace has a vibe, just has a look to him that just screams pump the team up. He just has a vibe that when he comes up, he's here to party.
Yeah, and they did it last year with him. The Mets, after the Grimace, people could say whatever they want, as stupid as it is, whatever you want to say. After the Grimace threw out the first pitch for the Mets last year at Citi Field, they had the best record in baseball and went to the NLCS. So you can't argue with it. Pablo Sanchez, see you later. Let's bring back the Grimace. Let's go. And
exactly. If I owned a Grimace suit, maybe I'd have someone show up to the game in a Grimace suit. Have a couple of people show up in a Grimace suit.
I saw some people showing up still in the Grimace suits at Citi Field. I've seen them. They had one behind home plate the other day on TV, but we need the real Grimace. We don't need Grimace impersonators. We need the Grimace.
Yep, exactly. We're calling for the Grimace signal. Show up.
You're right, like the bat signal.
I even tried wearing. Yeah, I even was hoping it would spark something. I was wearing the City Connect jersey, similar to what the Grimace was wearing when he threw the first pitch. Remember, he was wearing a City Connect hat, so I was wearing the City Connect jersey, and I was wearing a Grimace shirt underneath the jersey. So hopefully, it sends a signal to the Grimace.
Now, Dan, did you see that actually, on a side note, just to get sidetracked here for a second, I do want to talk about NFL training camp, so we'll be wrapping up with that before we get out of here real quick. But just before we move on from the Grimace, did you hear that recently, I don't remember when it was, maybe the last month or two, McDonald's actually announced exactly what the Grimace is? Did you hear them say what he is?
I can't hard to believe that it's a taste bud. I really feel like the milkshake. No way Grimace could be a taste bud.
That could be a taste
Yeah, they
bud.
said
Makes no
but
sense. Taste buds aren't big and purple.
yeah, I feel like the embodiment of a milkshake made more sense. Made more sense
Or,
when the
or he's just a
the
big
rumor
fat
that
purple guy that likes McDonald's. Like, why do you have to slap something on him? He's just a big fat guy that likes McDonald's. Who cares?
yeah, he's a big purple guy that likes his milkshakes.
Yeah, exactly. As he should. He's the Grimace. So,
Yeah,
all right.
exactly.
Yeah,
He's the Grimace. You can't. Nothing can kill the Grimace.
nothing can kill the Grimace.
Nothing.
So there we
Yep.
go.
Nothing.
All right. I like it. I like it. And with that, let's wrap up with some football talk real quick, Dan. Um, as the Giants and Jets are in full swing as we talk. We actually have the preseason openers coming up on this weekend. And what we got from we'll start off with Giants camp real quick, Dan. We'll start off with your New York G-men. And we got some word that Malik Neighbors and Brian Burns both didn't practice today. Neighbors is dealing with a toe. I don't think the Giants are that worried about it. They're both questionable for Saturday against Buffalo in the preseason opener. But what we did find out from Coach Daboll in his press conference today is that the Giants, and he didn't reveal much, but he did confirm that rookie quarterback Jackson Dart will play in the season opener. He didn't say if he's going to start. There still is a shot. I guess the Giants starters with Russell Wilson or whoever they want to throw out there could start. But he did confirm that Jackson Dart will play in this game. And I think that's a big deal for the Giants. You want to get Jackson Dart as many meaningful snaps as you can get him in the preseason.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like he needs to get as many steps as he can with the starters.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Because then not only, it's tough to judge the talent or the development of a young player when they're going against backups and guys that aren't going to be in the league and just guys that are there to fill out a preseason roster. So I agree with you. If it was me calling the shots, I would have Jackson Dart, maybe not the whole time, but at least for a few games or a few of these snaps, I want Jackson Dart out there with my first team offense going against some other team's first team defense. You know what I mean? I don't want him going against any of these stiffs.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like Jackson Dart needs to get some reps with the first team offense, build himself up, especially the fact that for at least to start the season, he'll be on the bench. Probably could be on the bench most of the season. Maybe really is going to not have a big impact until next year. So you really need to have him get as many reps as possible.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You want to get this kid up to speed as quickly as you can. It's exactly. Couldn't agree more. So,
Yep,
so
exactly. And I feel like this year is a building block year for the Giants.
No doubt about it, man. No doubt about it. It's a building block year for the Giants, and it's a building block year for the Jets too. And one thing that I like that the idiotic coach Saleh the last couple of years refused to do is that Aaron Glenn said that he's committed to playing his starters, probably for just one or two drives in the preseason opener at Green Bay. The Jets have on Saturday at 8:00. I love that a lot. I'm not a guy that, that likes to take it easy on players in training camp. I think there's a reason why you test these guys and why you put them in real game situations in preseason, because you want to not only evaluate them and see what type of players they are for the guys that you don't know, but you also want them to be ready to play a full game in the beginning of September when the season starts. How many times have we come up the last couple of years where, whether it's an offensive lineman on your team or a guy coming back from an injury or just some guy they're trying to play it slow with, and how many times have we been saying to ourselves early in September, well, this guy didn't really get too many snaps in the preseason, so we don't know what to expect from him. That happens all the time now. I'm glad that maybe Aaron Glenn, and even as we saw with Brian Daboll, maybe that philosophy is starting to change a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. I expect to see that the rest of the way during the preseason, and they need to keep it up. They need to keep it up. getting. They need to get. They need to do. They need. It's what they need to do.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt about it. You got to put these guys out there. You got to test them. And yeah, I totally agree with you on that, Dan. And last thing on the Jets too is that the Jets signed an old friend, kicker Nick Folk. This is a guy who was the Knicks kicker back in the Knicks. My head's all over the place. The Jets kicker back in the Rex Ryan days. This guy kicked the Jets' last postseason field goal. So it's been a long time since Nick Folk has been a New York Jet, and he's going to be back. And I like that too. I like that the Jets brought in a veteran kicker that you don't really have to worry about too much. He can come in and be pretty reliable. So I think it's a good move for the Jets. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, it's a good move. They needed a kicker that could be consistent, and I expect the consistency from him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Totally agree with you on that. And all right, last couple of things before we get out of here. What do you think about Cowboys pass rusher Micah Parsons requesting a trade after his spat with Jerry Jones? They were they felt like they were kind of getting the runaround in contract extension negotiations. And then Jerry Jones went on these podcasts and just started saying all these weird things about Micah Parsons. And I think it really turned him off. And it seems to me like Micah Parsons that this might not be one of those situations where, okay, if you throw a lot of money at him, he'll shut up and fall into line. I don't know. Maybe Jerry Jones might have fractured this relationship beyond repair.
Yeah, from what I've been seeing, it looks like he's going to be traded.
And as a Giants fan, you gotta love that, right?
Yeah, I gotta love that. It gives us a little easier shot at having a good season if the Cowboys are just having a big issues. You want to see that going into the year.
Exactly, especially under a new head coach, Brian Schottenheimer, former Jets offensive coordinator, who I still cannot believe is the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Mind-numbingly insane. It just goes to show what Jerry Jones, as crazy as he was, I used to respect as a guy that is really unorthodox, but has a proven track record of, even though they haven't had, one of the, they really haven't been to a conference championship game in 30 years. They usually have one of the better rosters in the NFL. And I don't know, that's not the case anymore. And Jerry Jones seems to be coming off his rocker a little bit these days, Dan.
Yeah, I feel like it's about time maybe he maybe takes a step back and bring in an actual GM.
Yeah, GM Jerry, definitely not as good as owner Jerry. And good.
Yeah, I've always questioned that when I realized that this guy's an owner. Like, what the heck is doing that? Owning a NFL team doesn't make you an expert on football. It makes you an expert on having, maybe if you've got the money, you got the financial resources to put up a winning product, but maybe you need to bring in the professionals who know what they're doing when it comes to the actual football part of owning a football team.
Yeah. And as we can see, there's no case more glaring than Woody Johnson owning the Jets, that just because you own a football team doesn't mean you know jack shit about football. So you're 100% right about that, Dan.
Yep, exactly. Especially when you have a name like Woody Johnson and have a lineup and own a company that makes a line of products under the name Johnson and Johnson. I'm sorry, right. I can't help but laugh at that. I'm sorry, it's too much of an easy punchline.
It definitely is, Dan. And you know what, though? That ended up being the perfect segue to the last thing. Speaking of cocks, what are your thoughts on the dildos getting thrown at WNBA games?
What the heck? Where the heck is getting these dildos? What the? I've never seen something completely dumb. And the reason why, like there's freaking no back policy at these WNBA arenas is because of stupid people throwing dildos. What are they, Eagles fans?
They are green dildos, you're right.
yeah. What the heck is with the people freaking throwing dildos? And why would you even feel comfortable buying a dildo? I feel embarrassed to go into a Spencer's and buying a dildo just to throw at a WNBA game.
That's true. Excuse me, sir. I'd like one of those big green dildos, please. Oh no, it's not for me. I'm going to a WNBA game tonight.
Yeah. I would feel. I would even feel an oddity going into one of those stores in where the county cellar is, because I want to buy a dildo to throw at a WNBA game. I feel embarrassed to do that. Do these people have no shame in buying dildos, or what do they do? Do they just go to where? Do they find where their wives or girlfriends hide their dildos, and they decide to throw those into the stands? Is that what they're doing? Because I can only see that's the only reason why they'd be doing that without feeling the embarrassment. Is they're going? They know where their wives or girlfriends hide their dildos.
Well, either way, I support it and I like it, and I think these WNBA players deserve it.
Yeah, and believe me, whether you admit it or not, there's a good chance if you're not around, if you're at work or something, your wife or girlfriend's probably using one, and she'd probably hide it somewhere. If you comb the house, you're bound to find it.
Yeah, that's true. Or just look between her legs. And Dan, what's it called? So with the WNBA though, they wear those shirts now every once in a while, or they used to, or earlier this year, that says "Pay us what we're worth." Well, having green dildos thrown at you is exactly what you're worth. So I think that the fans decided to pay you exactly what you're worth. And on that note, Dan, I think that's going to do it for us tonight on the Best Seat in the House podcast. I want to thank everybody for hanging out with us here on this fun edition of the show. Before we get out of here, Dan, anything you'd like to plug for yourself?
Sure. My Twitter, Bobo103NYC. Instagram, Bobo718DK. One word, YouTube. Also subscribe to our Patreon, where you get access to stuff like Trackside Minute and early access to 1 week early access to my YouTube content. So that'll be on the lookout. I'll be filming some Trackside Minutes soon. I'll be filming some Trackside Minutes soon in a couple days. Got to catch up a little bit on the Trackside Minutes. Not all the stuff's happening, the action with the NASCAR Cup Series. So subscribe to that, and more importantly, you support the show. So and all of you who subscribe to our Patreon, big thanks to all of you who already subscribe to our Patreon. And as you subscribe to our Patreon, get the word out.
That's right. We appreciate everybody that's taken the plunge already. $5, like Dan said, patreon.com/Best Seat in the House podcast. So thank you so much for all the support that everybody's given us. Don't forget, as you can see on the bottom of the screen as well, you can follow us at BSIT_podcast. Follow us on Instagram, Best Seat in the House podcast, and also check us out on Rumble, and check us out on Kick and Twitch as well. We're all over the place. So for my co-host, the great Daniel Bobo Curlin, I'm Rob Kramer. This is the Best Seat in the House podcast, everybody. And we'll see you next week. Have a great weekend, everybody.